Welcome back to Indie Rebel, the podcast for independent filmmakers. My name is Christopher Tempel, and today I have a very special, very beautiful guest with me. She's the light of my world. This is my own wife. We've all heard the joke, a filmmaker's life, and it's become a hashtag on Instagram. Today we're going to talk to a filmmaker's wife instead. So, your name is?
Mrs. Karissa Tempel.
Mrs. Christopher Tempel, there we go. And I do want to remind you, you're free to ask me questions too. This is not like Total Jeopardy and you're not in the hot seat where I'm just grilling you the whole time. Right. So let's start off with the basics. You're married to me.
I am.
For better or for worse on your part. I feel bad for you sometimes. But the story of how we first met is almost like a movie unto itself. Can you elaborate on that and how we met?
So the story of how we met. Well, let's see. February 13th, 2019.
So specific.
Setting the date, setting the scene. I was traveling to work from a dog sitting job, and my car got stuck in the snow and out in the middle of Idaho, no cell service, can't call my boss, can't call tow truck, and this little gray Escape just pulls up and guy hops out, "Hey, do you need help?" And of course, growing up, you're not supposed to talk to strangers, not supposed to get in a car with a stranger, but what else was I supposed to do? So, yeah, I need help. So, get in the car. Turns out he worked for the guy I was dog sitting for, and he helped me get my car unstuck.
And you figured that all out, I think, a lot sooner than I did.
Yes.
As far as the dog sitting and who you were. Like, I didn't realize you were dog sitting for my boss. You were just some poor pretty girl stuck on the side of the road that I thought, hey, she needs help kind of thing, so I should ask her.
Yeah, I got warned that there were two production guys working while they were away.
You got warned?
Warned. One in his 30s and one almost 40 or something like that.
For the record, I was in my 30s and Mike was almost 40. Sorry, Mike. You're probably not listening to this anyway. And then I proceeded to stalk you a little bit through social media stuff, and then what happened from there?
You posted on Facebook that you were looking for actors for Surviving the Wild. And I shared the post because growing up in the Adventist school system, me and my brother went to academy, and he had a lot of classmates who had done some acting, short films, things like that. So I thought maybe they'd be interested. So I reposted it.
At what point did you find out that I was making independent films? Was it when I shared that post, or did you have suspicions earlier? Like, were you stalking my profile and found out? Because I was posting a lot of stuff, I think, at the time.
I think Surviving the Wild was my first indication.
Okay. And then what was your thoughts about that? Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? Did you even care at all? Because I've noticed over the years, like my own personal friend group, they really never cared that I made movies. They're just like, well, that's just Chris being Chris.
I thought it was fun.
You thought it was fun?
I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was good or bad. I just thought it was different. It was not something you hear everybody do.
Very true. Yeah, and not a lot of people do it.
No.
There's a lot of filmmakers out there, but in the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot of us. So, you've helped me out on numerous projects over the years, various roles, various shorts and features and stuff. You've been an extra hand. You've been a camera person. You've even been an actor. You've catered for these movies. What's been the most enjoyable role for you, and why?
I think my most enjoyable roles were behind the camera, creature design, and probably catering.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about creature design. Let's talk about that one first. What do you mean by creature design? What's that all about?
When you want a monster tail for a lake monster, I went out, bought fabric and pool noodles and pillow stuffing, and we created a 8-foot tail.
And how many hours did you put into that thing?
Oh, I don't know. Was it 3?
Oh, it was more than that.
I don't remember.
Gotta be more than that. But yes, so my wife did build me a creature tail for a lake monster. I was given the challenge, do Jaws, but in a Montana lake. And obviously I'm a visual effects guy, and I knew I was going to have some visual effects, but I really wanted to have a practical thing for the end of the movie. Now, originally, I was going to go with just monster humps. Do you remember that?
I do, yep.
And then you were the one that suggested a tail. You're like, why not just do a tail? So what was kind of your thought process on that? Like, why go straight to something more, to me, that would seem more difficult?
Because the tail, it's the end of the creature. So as the creature's moving through the water, the tail's going to crest and it's going to come above the waves. And I thought it would be easier to manipulate.
There you go. And for me, I thought it would be harder to make. I thought humps are easy. They're just big pillows covered with monster skin, you know? And I had this whole like device planned out where I was going to be able to raise them from the depths of the water and make them pop out to the surface and things. And instead, she goes out and makes a full on creature tail, which we still have in the garage. How long is that thing? Like
8 feet.
8 feet long. And it's got all the little scallops on the top and everything. And we came up with a story for it too, because one of them came out a little deformed. What was the story on that one?
I think it was like he survived a boat rudder or motor.
Yeah, yeah, he did some runs with the boat, and so we painted scars on the creature tail, and then when the time came, we actually just shot that bit on the iPhone
Mhm.
because it needed to look like VHS camera, and there was a VHS app we could use, and you ran camera, and I just basically whacked you in the head with the tail at the end of it, right?
In the lake.
In the lake, a very cold lake in the middle of April, by the way.
Yep.
It was very cold at that time. All right, so you've enjoyed the behind the scenes. What about like running camera? Because you did that for me once when we did the Tenet spoof.
I enjoy running the camera.
Okay,
I like getting that technical side.
and you've dabbled with photography a little bit on the side in the background. So what is there a difference between photography and cinematography
There is, because, 24 pictures minute
per second?
per second.
Very good. She's close. She's very close. This will lead me to another question in a little bit, but
I'm only a few sips into my wine, but yeah, 24 frames per second. You got to maintain your focus for that. It's not like you're snapping one good photo. You have to snap 24 good photos in a second.
yep. And so yeah, you ran camera for the Tenet spoof that we did. It's on my YouTube channel, by the way. Go look it up, youtube.com/Chris Temple, and you can find the short that we're talking about. That was a lot. That was a big experiment too. That little short film. That was something where we went to go see Tenet. It was the only movie like playing in theaters at the time because it was in the middle of all the pandemic stuff, and I could not stop thinking about the reverse stuff in that movie.
Nope.
For those that haven't seen it, it deals with reversing time, but you've got time going forward and time going backward at the same time. And it was stuck in my head for a long time. And I'm like, all right, I got to figure out a way to do this to get this out of my head. So we wrote this little short film based on it. And I did my own version of it, I guess you could say at the end,
Yep.
where you come walking up the stairs acting and
And the bullet's moving backwards.
the bullet's moving backwards. So she's moving forward, the bullet moved backwards. We did that with a split screen. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. All right. So, what has been your least enjoyable role helping me out with all these films and stuff?
Any talking roles in front of the camera or just in front of the camera?
Why is that? Why don't you like being in front of the camera?
I'm not an actress. I don't like the spotlight. I'm an introvert.
Now, you did briefly toy with starting even your own YouTube channel, and how long did that last?
All of the 30 minutes it took me to try to shoot the first video.
We never got the channel uploaded, did we?
Nope.
Nope. You're like,
Finish editing it. I was like, bleh.
this is not for me. All right. Moving on. What has been the most frustrating or most difficult part of being married to a filmmaker? And you can be honest.
Um, it does take time. I've learned that. Feature film does not get shot and edited and boom, it's done. It takes time.
When did we start, speaking of feature films, like when did I start writing this Leap movie that I'm finishing up?
Almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was the spring of 2022.
Yeah, so 3 years and a week,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
It was in March of that year. I do remember.
Yep.
And so carry on. So how long, you didn't realize how long the whole process was going to take?
I didn't realize how long the whole process would take. I wouldn't say that's frustrating. It's just helps me be aware more of your schedule, what you've got going on. Personally, the most frustrating is probably when you're working on sound design and the whole house is vibrating, but he doesn't notice because his office is soundproof.
I have sound treatment up all over the office, and I do have a subwoofer in there. They're not expensive monitors at all, the speaker system that I have, but they're good enough, I guess, that they do tend to shake things around a little bit.
Mhm.
It was easier when we lived at the apartment. I didn't care as much because our neighbors would have their music boom, 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 boom all the time anyway. This was my way to kind of dig back at them.
Yep.
But now we live in a house on 10 acres in the middle of nowhere, and you're the only one I can annoy with it now, I guess.
I can't go to another level now.
Nope, it's all in one go. So what about my quote unquote hoarding of like miscellaneous things that I say, oh, I can use that in a movie someday and stuff. Like, is that something you've had to learn to deal with?
Oh, yes. The spare pill bottles, the extra glass bottles. Oh, this sword can be used in something later. Just the randomest things you collect
For someday.
for someday.
Yes.
It's like your dad or your granddad that hoards all those pieces of scrap wood for just in case. They'll may never use them, but just in
But
case.
you know what? You're very happy when you do have them in that just in case situation.
True.
Hoarding all this stuff does save me money. So for independent filmmakers out there, if you can be a hoarder, you can save money when it comes to props on your film. I have saved pill bottles, both for myself and for my dog. We've saved syringes, wallets. I've got a whole bunch of those spam credit card offers you guys get where it comes with a card. She's laughing right now. It comes with a cardboard credit card. Yeah, I save like every single one of those for potential props. I've got probably 7 different pairs of sunglasses.
Laptops.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of laptops. I've saved every laptop I've ever owned, even the ones that like went through my fire. Saved all those. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, now we have a garage where I can store most of the stuff.
It's true.
It was starting to get a little difficult there at the apartment for a while, wasn't
It was.
it? um, so you talk about the time aspect and things like that. You know, because a short film will take me a week to run through start to finish. What were you expecting when we kind of started talking about this most recent feature? And I said, I think I'm going to go for this. Like, what was in your head? What was the timeline and stuff for that?
Um, well, based off what was shot versus what you thought you would have to do for visual effects, which I think those turned out to be more than you had planned on, but yeah, I think we had talked about like about a year timeline. Um, so it's been a little bit more. Hasn't been too much more. But it is very time consuming for you. You're not able to take on any, you know, more profitable projects because your time is focused on this, which it needs to be to get it done. That's understandable. Um, and it takes up your Sundays, which right now is totally fine because it's wet winter outside. I don't wanna go out and do anything, but come summer, want to go backpacking on the weekends. So yeah, it'll be nice when it's wrapped up. But yeah, just understanding there is a time commitment and I can't hog your time from it.
And there's a bit of a financial commitment that comes with it, then, too, hasn't there been?
There is.
You've had to take up a lot of slack with this because in order for me to focus on the movie to get the thing done, I haven't had to go searching for projects. And so you've had to bear the brunt of that. So I think that's something to make note of, too,
True.
for people to be aware of. I've been very fortunate to marry such a kind, caring woman here who believed in the message of the film. I think that's the most important part.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it had been one of more of your fun projects, I would have been like, gotta shorten things up here.
Figure it out, Temple. All right, so we've talked about the frustrating or difficult sides. What about what's been the best part about being married to a filmmaker?
Getting to see your creativity and like when you're problem solving a visual effect or something and watch you work through it and I get to learn from it too.
And then speaking of visual effects, how much of that stuff have you kind of learned just through osmosis?
Quite a bit. Now I'm watching shows and power window here or that, you know, like blue screen, you can see the line, or that matte painting is definitely a matte painting, and
And you may not always know the terminology, but you know
I know
kind of
something's off.
something's off, and you kind of know what you're looking at with it. Like you're not just like something's off with the shop. I don't know what it is. You're able to pinpoint what it is.
Right.
It's just not articulated maybe in the right language necessarily.
I may not know the technical term.
No. So then that leads me into, you've talked about now the power windows and the visual effects. Like, what have you learned about films being married to me? Has it just been that, or like overall anything else, or?
There's a lot I still need to learn. I've learned that. Like I know color management. Color management, you're very particular on. Me. I don't notice as much.
Do you even know what color management is, or just that it's important?
I know that it's important.
Fair enough.
I know that color management can change versus, if you're watching something on your phone versus a laptop versus a computer. So things need to be, how do you put it?
That's what color management does, is it
Right.
helps unify and
Unify.
stuff like that, yeah. Yeah, color management is being able to take different camera sources, put them in the same color space, so then I'm doing visual effects and color, and everything is, like, matching and working together,
Calibrated.
calibrated, there you go, and then I can output it into a form that is good for either computer screens or cell phones or projection or, YouTube, whatever, that kind of stuff, so and it's weird, like, so I think about it, like, when I started, I didn't care about any of that stuff, didn't know about any of that stuff, and it wasn't even a big deal. You made your movie and you just accepted that things were gonna look different on different formats and screens and stuff like that, and, like, now as the years have gone by, I feel like as an independent filmmaker, you almost have to know more than what you did 10 years ago to make the same caliber of a movie and stuff like that. So that's something I've learned, is that there's always more to learn,
True.
if that makes any sense. So, I guess before I ask you your final question, any questions for me now that we've been grilling you this whole time?
So, I know you've done feature films before we got married. How is it different having a spouse now?
Ooh, that's a good one. She's putting me on the hot seat now. It's been more challenging, not in a creative sense,
Okay.
but in a when I was doing my features before, I was in my early 20s. I was, basically college aged without having gone to college. And when you're that age, you don't have any cares in the world, kind of a thing. And nothing really matters except what you're most passionate about.
Okay.
And so for me, the hardest part or the most challenging part has been the balance of the relationship versus the films and stuff like that. And so I've had to turn the filming now into a 9 to 5 in order to make sure that I can still, give you what you need and what we need in the relationship and stuff. So
Okay.
whereas in the past I had no qualms about shooting till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd come home, I'd sleep till noon, and then I would be editing my movies. And it was the same thing. I wouldn't start editing till 10 o'clock at night. I'd work from 10 till 5 in the morning. And then I'd go to sleep, sleep from 5 till noon, wake up at noon, hang out with my friends. What's up? Where you guys working at? That kind of a thing. Cause none of us really had stable jobs at that point. And then go back to work again at night. And that's something I've had to shift around quite a bit this time around. I don't know if that's part of why it's taking me longer, because it's a new schedule and
A new rhythm.
a new rhythm, yeah, really more than anything. But I'm not upset about it at all. It's just it's been
Okay.
different. It's been a big change.
So before you were married to the project.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I can't have 2 wives.
In this instant.
But we have talked that if I needed to, I could work nights on the thing, but then I gotta work on with headphones, and I don't work well with headphones.
No. It's either that or he's got to put the studio back out in the garage.
No, yeah, I don't wanna do that right now.
It's cold. It's winter.
What else? What other questions might you have for me?
Knowing I have or had no experience with filmmaking, video production, anything prior to meeting you, um, what have I done to help you on your projects that you see I'm really good at and that I could grow in?
I would say a lot of it is kind of more on the producing side, believe it or not.
Okay.
And I could see you very easily stepping into that role. You've got experience talking to people on phones, and you came up with the idea on this last movie of putting together little sandwich bags, not sandwich bags, but like goodie bags each day for everybody. And why don't you talk about that for a split second? Because I needed a way to feed my cast and crew. And I had cast and I had one crew member, but I still had to feed people. And I'm looking at all this stuff like, oh yeah, I'll buy pizza and I'll make spaghetti. Da, da, and you're like, no, here's a better idea. So what was the idea you came up with?
Yeah, basically it was how can I cater it while still working my 9 to 5 so I didn't have to be on set. So I came up with basically we'd have sandwich stuff available because the cast and crew varied day by day. So it was never predictable completely.
Yep.
So we had like PB&J, I think we had some meat and cheese sandwiches stuff and then yeah, basically just did a brown paper bag sack lunch with chips, granola bars, cookies, some electrolytes, like flavored water stuff.
And
Make
you
it
made
very
all that in
simple.
advance.
I did. I was able to make all that in advance.
Yep.
And then yeah, on the day of you would just pull out the sandwich stuff as needed, and
Yeah.
everyone was good to go.
And I would just tell my team, hey, grab a goodie bag. And we always had the goodie bags on set. I always had extras in case anybody else showed up that day, like the funeral. Remember that?
Oh, yes.
And we shot this funeral scene, and I said, hey, by the way, we don't need a real death going on out here, so grab some water, grab some snacks, keep yourselves going. So I would say for me, you really shined in that area, and thinking these logistics through with stuff and things.
Yeah.
Even if you don't understand the entire process, if I tell you there's something I need to do, you can look at that and be like, no, that's crap. Don't do it that way. Here's the way we need to do it.
Well, I hope I don't say it in quite those words.
No, but it's good. I need that though,
Yeah.
too, and I need somebody that pushes back a little bit.
Mm.
And that's actually been a very good thing about making this movie, being married to you, as opposed to making movies singles. I've always got somebody now I can bounce ideas off of.
True.
And whether it be, hey, come look at this shot. What do you think of this? You're like, it sucks.
I give my honest opinion.
And she may not always be able to articulate why it sucks, but she can tell that something's off with it.
Yep.
And that's good. And I mean, the whole movie even came about because of you in a way. Because as I shared before, where I talked about how I made the most recent movie, we were sitting on the balcony that March morning around our fire pit.
Mhm.
And I said, I want to play in the Leap universe again. And you're like, are you sure that's the movie you want to do?
Because the previous two, like you said, you did in your 20s, and they were a little bit campier, and those actors have aged up. So can you still do the camp without it being too far?
I would have had to recast if I was going to go with the original story plan.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always work either. And I was like, oh no. And then that got me thinking, I want to do something realistic. I've grown as a filmmaker. I need to make a big boy movie now. I got my big boy undies on. All right, so let's wrap this up here. I know this has been a shorter one, guys, but I kind of figured that would be the case, but this is just a good chance to kind of sit down and talk to each other, learn some different things. If you could share just one piece of advice or information with other spouses of filmmakers, what would you tell them?
Patience is key. Um, you have to understand it is a time commitment. And yes, they may be used to being married to the project. You have to try to find that balance. And it took us a little bit to find it, but we did find it.
I felt like we kind of found it through some short films.
We did.
That helped a lot.
Yeah.
There was a while there, especially before I started running Pyro Studios, where we agreed that Sunday could be my play day to do the movie stuff and things.
Right.
And that meant during the week I wasn't working on it unless, well, when you were home. If I got home before you, I was working on it, but when you were home, that was family time. That was us time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best piece of advice for other filmmakers out there and their spouses is just like a marriage. It's compromise. You got to figure it out, work it together, figure out what works for you guys, and
Yeah.
not everyone's going to have the same schedules that we have. And
If you're both working 9 to 5, well, then you got to figure out, can he work on it a couple hours in the evening, and then you still get to spend, dinner and time for a show before bed.
Right.
You got to find what works for you.
or vice versa. Are you somebody that has to get up early in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning? Well, then maybe it makes more sense for the filmmaker to go work on the stuff later at night after all your evening rituals and things.
True.
You go to sleep, they sneak into bed, you don't even know it. Everyone's going to be different at that point.
Very true.
So that's cool. Any other questions for me?
What's your next project?
What's my next project? My next project, I need to pull up my log line for this thing. It's a supernatural thriller. When a Christian family loses their son in a tragic accident, the mother makes the harrowing mistake of turning to spiritualism in hopes of contacting him. And all hell breaks loose. What's that?
And how does she do that?
How's she do that? By using Ouija boards.
Mm.
And it is based on a true story. It is a woman that I knew from a church in Spokane, Washington, and her mother had been involved with the occult, and she came and shared her story at church one Saturday, and I heard the story, and I'm like, this needs to be turned into a movie. I emailed her, and I asked her, hey, can I do this? She says, sure. So I did. I sent her my original script, which is totally different than what I'm working on right now. And she goes, yeah, I can see my elements of the story in there and stuff. You have my blessing to do whatever you want to do. So it's like, cool. It's changed a lot. I'm rewriting it right now. And I always like to have the next project in the wings and on standby. Probably not going to shoot it this summer. but I'm shooting maybe for summer of 2026, I think, to shoot the thing.
Good timeline.
Yep. gives myself time to get this movie done, get it promoted, make some money to finance the next one, because that is my goal. I want to turn this into a business.
And what's funny with that one is we both heard the same story, but at different times from the same person.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, you have heard it from
We
her, huh?
did. Yep, because she came and spoke at the academy.
Did she do the two-parter with it?
Hmm.
Did she? Okay.
She did. Yep.
Now she's also part of where I learned to preach too.
Okay.
We were doing an evangelistic series at the church, and she was brought in to help coach us all on our subject matter. Now I ended up moving before the series began, so I never actually got a chance to present, but she coached me on speaking and preaching and stuff.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There you go. Yes. So we're learning new things on this podcast. This is good. All right. That's all I've got on my end here. Anything for you?
I think that's it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for listening. This has been Indie Rebel, the podcast for independent filmmakers. My name is Christopher Tempel. I'm here with my beautiful, stunning, lovely, scrumptious wife, Karissa.
Thank you very much.
And we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.